8 things you should never share with anyone. Even with parents, there are certain things you should never reveal. If you do, you may face the consequences, especially the 7th point, which could lead to family breakdowns and marital separation. The content below is very practical and might completely change your perspective. I know your life is busy. However, what I'm about to say isn't easy to grasp, especially if you only hear it once. My advice is to watch until the end. Listen repeatedly during your free time or while doing household chores. Share and save this playlist for your convenience. I'm sure that within a few short months, your mindset will improve significantly. Ancient wisdom warmly greets you. Today we will explore 8 things you should never share with even your closest friends, as friends come in different forms. It's better to keep these things to yourself than to say them aloud, or you might face unnecessary trouble and attract petty individuals. The first thing, the money in your pocket. Many years ago, in an ancient town, there was a small blacksmith shop owned by an old blacksmith. The old man sat inside his shop, with tools displayed outside. No matter what time you passed by, you would see him reclining on a chair inside. On a small wooden table next to him was an old purple clay teapot of unknown origin. His daily income was modest, just enough for tea and food. Due to his age, he didn't need much else, so he was content. One day, an antique dealer passed by the shop and noticed the purple clay teapot. It had an aged, elegant appearance, with a deep, ink-black hue. After careful examination, the dealer identified it as a rare piece crafted by a famous Qing dynasty artisan and offered to buy it for 100,000 yuan. The old man was initially surprised, but ultimately declined the offer because the teapot was a family heirloom passed down by his grandfather. For 3 generations, his family had used it for drinking tea while working in the forge. After closely examining it, the man identified the teapot as the work of a famous craftsman from the Qing dynasty, extremely rare, and offered to buy it for 100,000 yuan. At first, the old man was surprised, but he refused because the teapot was a family heirloom passed down by his grandfather. For 3 generations, his family had used this teapot when they brewed tea for their craft. Although he didn't sell the teapot, this was the first time in his life that the old man had trouble sleeping. The teapot, which he had used for 60 years and once thought of as a common object, was now being offered for 100,000 yuan. In the past, he would often close his eyes and drink tea, but now, at the slightest sound, he would sit up and check if the teapot was still there, which disturbed him greatly. What became unbearable was when the villagers found out he owned the valuable antique teapot. They started asking if he had any other valuable items. Some even began borrowing money from him, and his children also wanted a share of the teapot's value. The old man's life was completely disrupted. When the antique dealer returned a second time, offering 200,000 yuan, the old man could no longer endure. He gathered his neighbors, lifted a hammer, and, in front of everyone, smashed the teapot into pieces. Not long after, his life returned to the peaceful state it once was, and people say he lived to be 100 years old. When hearing this story, perhaps the most shocking moment was when the old man raised the hammer and shattered the teapot. The broken pieces that fell were not just fragments of the teapot, but also symbols of temptation, greed, and endless obsession. The truth, however, was that the teapot he smashed was a fake. The real teapot he had quietly sold to the antique dealer, earning 200,000 yuan, while also preventing the greed of outsiders and his children. Thanks to the money he earned from the sale, he lived a long life. Countless close relationships have been altered by money. Friends have turned into enemies over money. When others know you have money, they may want to borrow from you. If you refuse, they may doubt your affection for them. Repeated financial transactions can blur the lines between friendship and kinship, because human nature often cannot withstand the temptation of wealth. The second thing, your love life. There was a man who was always haunted by the image of a woman he couldn't forget, and he would ask anyone he met how he could forget her. Eventually, he heard that there was a temple on a mountain, and in the temple, there was a master who could help people overcome worldly attachments. The man was so excited and immediately climbed the mountain. When he met the master, he quickly shared everything, speaking passionately and in great detail. The master didn't interrupt, just quietly sat with his eyes closed, listening until the man finished. When the man stopped speaking, the master opened his eyes and asked a young attendant to bring some tea. Seeing the man's eager expression, the master took out a small bottle and said this water would help forget all worries. Drinking it would make him forget everything. The man hesitated and asked, "Drinking this will make me forget all my troubles?" The master shook his head and replied, "Both joy and sorrow, separation and union are temporary emotions. There is neither good nor bad in them," he said. "Therefore, some things that should be forgotten need to be left behind." When the man heard this, he immediately shook his head and said, "No, master, I don't want to forget. I just don't want to think about her anymore. Forgetting one person is enough." The master smiled, said nothing more, and instead turned to ask the attendant, "Have you copied the sutra today?" The young attendant obediently answered, "Master, I did not dare to miss a single day." The master nodded and asked further, "How do you remember this sutra?" The attendant didn't understand why the master asked him this, but still answered honestly, "I think about it a lot, read it often, and then I naturally remember it." The master asked again, "If I wanted you to forget this sutra, what would you do?" The attendant thought for a long time, then said, "I don't know, but if I remember it by thinking about it a lot, reading it often, then maybe if I stop thinking about it, stop reading it, I will forget it." The master turned to the man and said, "You ask everyone you meet, you tell everyone your story, you even tell me everything in detail, so how can you say you want to forget?" Even this attendant understands that by not thinking and not remembering, one can forget. So what are you still holding on to? To me, it seems you don't really want to forget her. You just feel that life now is no longer as joyful as it once was. Love is not a one-sided affair. It is the beauty of mutual understanding. For someone without fate, no matter how stubborn you are, you can't change the outcome that is already predestined. Only by letting go and accepting can we create the most beautiful scenes in life. In the end, if someone is not meant to be with you, no matter how excellent you are or how hard you try, they will not stay with you until the end. But the person destined for you, no matter how long the journey, will eventually find their way back and be with you. Fate will arrange things naturally. When you love someone who is not meant for you, learn to let go. Don't hold grudges and don't blame anyone. Believe that when you miss someone who is not meant for you, you will meet the person who is truly meant for you. The third thing, your weaknesses and private secrets. One day, the fruit told the hedgehog, "Your armor is amazing. I envy you." The hedgehog couldn't resist the compliment and said to the fruit, "I'll tell you a secret. Actually, my armor is not without flaws. When I curl up, there's a small gap in my belly. If someone blows into it, I'll giggle and open up." The fruit was surprised, but when they parted, the hedgehog warned, "You must never tell anyone this secret. If the fox finds out, I'm finished." The fruit promised, "Don't worry, I'll never betray my friends." Soon after, the fruit fell into the fox's hands. When the fox was about to eat the fruit, in order to save its own life, the fruit revealed the hedgehog's secret to the fox. The fox spared the fruit and caught the hedgehog instead. In life, you must never share your secrets with anyone. Your weaknesses and secrets can become someone else's protection when your life is in danger. This happens often at work. Some people, in an attempt to build deeper friendships, share their private matters or weaknesses to gain their friends' trust. It's like how the hedgehog revealed the soft spot in its armor. When everyone is still friends, everything may seem fine. But when interests conflict, friends can turn into competitors, and the weaknesses you once revealed can become weapons used against you. In a battle, a soldier told the general, "General, 200 meters ahead, there is a sniper, but he's not accurate. Even after many attempts, he hasn't hit anyone." The general asked, "Then why don't you take him out?" The soldier replied, "General, are you mad? Do you want to replace him with a better sniper, a more skilled sniper?" This story teaches us that we should recognize our opponent's weaknesses, but never remind them of it. You never know if your friends might turn into your opponents. If you reveal all your weaknesses, you'll be exposed and vulnerable to attack. just like the sniper. Never belittle yourself in front of others. If you do, you'll create a broken glass effect. When a window is broken and not repaired in time, other windows will gradually be destroyed. Similarly, a pile of trash left uncleared will only attract more trash. Many people belittle themselves to lower others' expectations and receive more recognition, but they overlook one truth. When you begin to belittle yourself, you become someone who is easily exploited in a group, someone who is just used by others, and even a place to vent their frustration. Self-deprecation does not help you advance or improve relationships. It only causes you to lose respect and admiration from others. Therefore, cherish yourself. That is the only way to fix the broken glass effect. The fourth thing, mistakes from the past. Long ago, there was a scholar who went to the capital to take an exam, but was sabotaged and failed. The girl he had loved since childhood also left him. From then on, the scholar became mentally distant, day after day, drowning his sorrow in alcohol. One day, he met a high monk and asked for a way to free himself from his suffering. The monk said little, only asking him to follow him for 3 days. For 3 days, the monk only allowed him to drink water and prohibited him from eating. Every day, the scholar had to feed the horse, chop wood, and sleep in the horse stable at night. After 3 days, he suddenly cried out in the street, regretful for having tortured himself like this. The monk said, "Didn't you do the same before?" Punishing yourself for the wrongs of others, bringing pain to yourself. The painful experiences of the past should not be repeatedly recalled. As Adam Smith said in The Theory of Moral Sentiments, in this world, no one can truly empathize with the pain of others. Even if you are pierced by 1,000 arrows and in so much pain you don't want to live anymore, it is still your personal matter. At a certain age, you will realize that everything is like this. Life is like a play. Loneliness and not being helped is a normal part of it. When you smile, the whole world smiles with you. But when you cry, you are alone in your tears. You cannot ask others to understand your difficulties. One cannot expect everyone to understand their pain. Although this may sound harsh, it is the truth. It's like the heartbreaking story of the little monkey. While searching for food, the little monkey was scratched by a branch, and the blood kept flowing. But instead of tending to the wound, it kept showing it to everyone to seek comfort. Some people felt sympathy, while others just found it amusing. The monkey would show its wound to anyone it met, again and again, which prevented it from healing, and it almost lost its life due to infection. As the writer Mo Yan wisely said, "Don't think the world cares about your problems. Do you think everyone will follow you? In reality, everyone has their own concerns, and no one cares about your issues. Don't keep complaining about your pain to others because 20% won't care, and the remaining 80% might be secretly laughing at you. The past, whenever mentioned, only increases the sadness. The pain of human beings is not the same for everyone, and the hardest days can only be overcome by yourself. The painful experiences of the past should heal on their own. Relying on others is not as reliable as relying on yourself. Waiting for someone to save you is not as effective as finding your own way out. Don't easily share your past with anyone, and don't reveal your vulnerabilities just because you had a moment of understanding with someone. All those who bully you are the ones who know you best. The person you trust the most can hurt you deeply because they can easily target your weaknesses with a single action. There was a couple where the husband was an alcoholic and the wife had a gambling addiction. They had 2 sons, but their fates turned out completely different. The elder son had a successful career, while the younger son got into trouble and ended up in prison. Someone asked the elder son, "Why have you been so successful?" He replied, "Because I have parents like this. If I don't work hard, who will take care of the family?" They then asked the younger son, "Why did you end up in prison?" He answered, "Because I have parents like this. They influenced me badly." The 2 brothers grew up in the same family. One strives to improve his life, while the other blames his parents for ruining him, living day by day without ambition. In reality, many people resemble both the older and younger brother. Living in the same era, some move forward, while others just blame others. The habit of blaming is a disaster, slowly leading us into despair, while those who never complain can overcome adversity. After losing his job and failing in the 1832 election, U.S. President Abraham Lincoln started a business, but within a year, it went bankrupt. For the next 17 years, he struggled to pay off debts, but never complained. Lincoln went on to run for Congress in 1846 and eventually succeeded. Imagine if, after his bankruptcy, Lincoln had blamed fate and fallen into despair. His life would have been filled with nothing but darkness. As someone once said, complaining about being in the dark is not as good as holding up a light and moving forward. Complaining is like pouring water into your shoes, making walking even more difficult. Complaining is one thing, making an effort is another. In the future, when talking, avoid complaining. The sixth point, unlucky words. A netizen shared that one of her colleagues was pregnant with twins, but kept complaining about how troublesome it would be to take care of them. She would joke with anyone she met, saying, "Maybe I'll give one to you." The result? One of the babies passed away. Another friend joked about never having ridden in an ambulance. That very night, he was poisoned by CO gas and had to be rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. A high school classmate of mine had a mother who was electrocuted while planting rice. We collected donations to help, but later another classmate joked, "Why doesn't anyone donate to me?" A week later, his mother was electrocuted while planting rice, and everyone had to donate to help him. One netizen shared that her colleague constantly complained, saying life was annoying, and eventually she was diagnosed with cancer. While working in a sewing factory, a colleague had his hand pierced by a sewing machine. He joked, "I wish the other hand would be pierced too, to be symmetrical." Within a few days, the other hand was indeed pierced. The Chinese internet personality KK Shi once replied to a fan, "I won't go back to Guizhou, I'll sleep under the sea." As a result, he tragically died in a drowning accident caused by a car crash. Thus, we must avoid unlucky words. Do not speak words of misfortune or ill omen, because a person's destiny is shaped by what they say. What you often speak creates your own destiny. Just as when you look at a tree with yellowed leaves, the problem may lie in its roots. People are the same. Your words are closely linked to your fate. When you're angry, avoid cursing others. Cursing others is actually planting seeds of misfortune for yourself. The negative consequences will inevitably come, but you may not know when they will happen. In any case, if you plant bad seeds in life, the bad fruit will naturally follow. This is the law of cause and effect, which never goes astray. Cursing others brings no benefit to them, and nothing positive to you either. Cursing is rooted in resentment. When you utter such words, your expression will become distorted. Over time, your face will change. Before 20, your appearance is shaped by your parents' genes. After 20, your appearance is shaped by your own cultivation. A kind heart and gentle words will make your appearance more harmonious and approachable. This is the way to cultivate oneself and bring good fortune. There is an old saying that bad things seem to happen more quickly than good things. Ancients believed that words have power, so one should maintain respect, especially when speaking. The mouth is the gateway to both blessings and misfortune. Blessings come through the mouth, misfortune comes out of the mouth. Reckless speech is the root of disaster. We must be careful with our words. I hope that those of you who tend to think negatively, speak bad words, or hold on to words spoken in the past will, from now on, reduce and completely avoid them. There was once a boss who liked to speak his mind, hurting many people. Recently, he bought a large villa in the city, but didn't boast about it online. He once shared that he suddenly grew up overnight because, 3 years ago, at a party in the village, while drunk, he casually mentioned that he made 500 million in a year, which was no big deal. 6 months later, all the fish in his pond were poisoned by someone. Places without streetlights, with only animals roaming at night. What is most cruel in human nature is the inability to tolerate seeing others live better than oneself, especially those who were once inferior. As Du Yang said, don't boast about your happiness, don't boast about your success, and don't boast about your achievements. Basic physics knowledge shows that things exposed to the air will lose moisture. Cold storage is the best way to preserve freshness. Gradually, you'll understand that life is yours alone and has nothing to do with others. People at higher levels often cultivate themselves to hide their talents. while those at lower levels tend to boast. If you share your joy with the wrong person, it will turn into boasting. If you are a friend who doesn't meet expectations, I will be disappointed. If you are a friend who excels, I will be even more disappointed. I hope you do well, but I don't want you to be better than me. In reality, most people can accept the success of strangers, but cannot tolerate the success of those close to them. It's like a beggar not being jealous of a millionaire, but definitely being envious of another beggar with higher earnings. What is easily achieved is called envy, while what is unattainable is called admiration. In the novel Malice, there is a profound story. Kosuke's grandfather and Hitaka were childhood friends, living on the same street. During school, Kosuke's grandfather was often bullied, and Hitaka would always protect him. After graduation, the two took different paths in life and lost contact. Many years later, they met again. Hitaka had become a famous writer, while Kosuke's grandfather was still struggling. When he learned of Hitaka's success, envy stirred in him. Even though Hitaka helped him find a new job, he couldn't avoid feeling jealous and resentful. While accepting Hitaka's help with ease, he secretly began planning. In the end, he killed Hitaka. At the end of the story, his motive and hatred were revealed. I hate you. I hate that you achieved the dream I once had before me. I hate your privileged life. I also hate my own weakness. I hate that luck doesn't come my way. I hate that I am not capable enough. I pour all my resentment onto you. No one really wishes for your well-being, except your parents and a few close friends. The number of people who genuinely rejoice in your success is very few. For the majority, the reason they get to know about you is just to confirm that you are not better than them. There is a line in the film Tian Dao that says, people need to learn to keep two things secret. One is their inner thoughts, and the other is their abilities. The 8th point, family matters. A netizen shared that about 6 months ago, there was a new female employee in her department, around 30 years old. After working together a few times, she felt that the woman was quite gentle and seemed to be the type of quiet and soft-spoken woman. However, she made a big mistake. Soon after starting, she confided in a colleague, A, that she had been divorced and was now living with a man 15 years older than her. She thought that colleague A would keep her secret, but that was clearly not the case. This led her colleagues to form opinions about her, and some even said very unpleasant things. Eventually, her leadership began to question her work abilities. Last week, I heard that she had submitted her resignation. I think until the moment she left, she still didn't understand what mistake she had made. You will always have many people around you. Sometimes they'll pretend to care and ask, "Is there something bothering you lately?" Or, "How have you been living recently?" Hearing this, you may feel that they genuinely care and share everything with them, and you may have fallen into a trap. Not speaking about personal matters recklessly is a quality that adults should have. There's an old saying, every family has its unspeakable troubles. Even in a happy family, there are times of disharmony. Even loving couples have moments of disagreement or conflict. Family matters should not be aired to others. If you share everything with others, they may outwardly offer sympathy and understanding, but they cannot resolve the real issues you are facing. Later, they will take your family's issues and turn them into topics for gossip. Eventually, the number of people gossiping will grow, and your path will gradually narrow without you noticing. Remember, no family is without quarrels. Family life is an ongoing process of reconciliation and forgiveness. Do not go telling others about your problems right away. Many people are especially fond of hearing the bad things about others. They certainly do not genuinely want to help or console you. Good words are hard to spread far, but bad words spread quickly. Some people, as soon as they turn their back, will spread the negative things about your family everywhere. Someone once said that family is the only place you can return to without reason. It is a place that, no matter how much you change, will always accept you. In this world, a loving family is not just a place for physical support, but also a peaceful refuge for the soul. To build a harmonious, happy family, communication, companionship, and understanding are essential. Communication is the foundation for building good relationships. It acts as a catalyst that strengthens the bonds between people. In a family, The lack of effective communication only creates greater distances between members. A psychologist once said, "What matters is not what has happened, but how others perceive it." Always remember that communication in close relationships is the most important. When a family faces issues, it is better to sit down together and talk instead of telling everyone else. Outsiders cannot help you, and you are just satisfying your need to vent. Meanwhile, they may secretly mock you. The best feng shui for a family is to discuss major matters together, forgive each other, avoid fighting over trivial things, and not dwell on past mistakes. Please remember and thoroughly apply these 8 principles so that your life can be smoother, calmer, and happier in the future.